Oke, ya.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Dan terhormat Profesor Hamida, kolaborasi riset dan industri kecerdasan. Yang terhormat Profesor Indonesia, Indonesia to the UN. Pak Wendy Aritonton, Ketua Umum Center of Technology and Innovation Studies (CTIS) dan dari IS dan secara resmi. And our speaker today, Professor Dr. who joined us in CTIS. Dr. Ades dengan Bapak Heluwakan and Dr. Taufik Muka from IMEX dan tentunya pengobatan kepada webinar mereka yang telah hadir di kantor CTIS.
Bisa dicek dulu, didengar oleh semua. Bisa didengar oleh Pak Sena.
Bapak Ibu.
Terdengar
Suaranya
jauh
Ibu.
suaranya Pak.
Ya, suara juga jauh. Ibu, suara Ibu tadi siapa ya? Nggak kedengaran tuh.
Iya, Ibu Lia. Ya.
Suaranya kecil sekali dan putus-putus.
Tadi Ibu Lia.
Itunya nggak nyampe.
Oke, mungkin mesti pakai ini aja, pakai mic di laptop ya.
Pak Amam still mute, Pak Amam still mute.
Baik, nanti kita ulang ya Pak. Oke.
Saya coba testing dulu, Bapak Ibu. Suara sudah terdengar. Di sini dikecilin.
Ini bisa kecil nggak? Bisa.
Saya coba cek lagi, Bapak Ibu. Sudah terdengar suaranya?
Bagus.
Ya.
Oke, baik.
Alhamdulillah.
Mohon maaf, saya ulang ya, Bapak Ibu. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Dikecil. Oke, yang terhormat Profesor Hamam Riza selaku Presiden Korika, Kolaborasi Riset dan Inovasi Industri Kecerdasan Artifisial. Yang terhormat Profesor Indroyono, Ambassador of Republic of Indonesia to the US. Pak Wendy Aritenang, Ketua Umum Center of Technology and Innovation Studies CTIS, dan Bapak Ibu para expert dari CTIS yang telah hadir secara luring di kantor CTIS. And our speaker today, Professor Dr. Tatiana Loboda from University of Maryland, who joined offline here in CTIS office, and Dr. Ada Sena Sopaheluakan, Deputi Bidang Klimatologi BMKG, and Dr. Kausik Sarkar from IMEX Forecasting Multi-Future, who joined online today. Dan tentunya selamat datang kepada para peserta webinar Korika yang telah hadir luring di kantor CTIS maupun yang bergabung secara daring. Perkenalkan, saya Lia Huyatuswada, selaku Data Science Leader untuk Project Climate Smart Indonesia, yang merupakan kolaborasi antara Korika, Kementerian Kesehatan, BMKG, IMEC Forecasting Healthy Future, dan MBZ University of AI. Climate Smart Indonesia adalah suatu inisiatif yang mengusulkan AI-based solution untuk prediksi kasus penyakit yang terdampak iklim dengan mengintegrasikan data iklim dan kesehatan. Pada kesempatan hari ini, saya akan memandu webinar Climate Health dengan tema Bringing out Observation into Early Warning System for Malaria and Dengue in Indonesia. Sebagai pembuka webinar pada hari ini, mari kita sambut terlebih dahulu Profesor Indroyono, Ambassador of Republic of Indonesia to the US, dan juga Chair of the CTIS Board of Trustees, yang akan memberikan welcome speech jauh-jauh dari Miami. Please welcome Profesor Indroyono. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Leah. Good morning, everybody in Indonesia. Good evening for all of you living in the United States. Thank you for inviting me in this today's webinar entitled "Bringing Earth Observation into Early Warning System for Malaria and Dengue in Indonesia," organized by CTIS, Korika, University of Maryland, BMKG, and IMAX. As we all know that if we talk about Earth observations, we are using Earth observation technology. Among others, is remote sensing technologies. Using sensor system of various wavelength of electromagnetic radiation installed in a platform. It can be drone, it can be aircraft, and can be also satellite. The data collected and then processed, and the product will be used for interpretation of the pressure of malaria or dengue fever. I'm very excited to learn that in doing the analysis and interpretation nowadays are using artificial intelligence with high powers of supercomputing. The climate data, the meteorological data, and also geophysical data, among others, will be used direct or indirectly for those malaria and dengue fever. Also for climate variability related to El Nino, to La Nina, and the presence of this phenomena related to the occurrences of malaria and dengue. Utilization of this Earth observation technology will become a powerful tool to anticipate various health disease for the futures and also for the current occurrences. I look forward for the outcome of this webinar. I'd like to reiterate that in 2023, Indonesia and the United States signed what we call the Comprehensive Strategic Partnerships. And in 2024, the Plan of Action of Comprehensive Strategic Partnerships was agreed. Currently, the US and Indonesia have started implementing this agreement in various sectors. One of the topics related to the application of science and technology is to anticipate climate change, also on natural disaster, and how to overcome the health issues. AI has been implemented. US tech company investment in Indonesia are to build, among others, data center and data processing. And I think this is a good idea that when we finish with the webinar, we should be ready to do some implementation into the health sectors, because the investment in this area is quite big, and the participation of the Indonesian and the US expert and professional should be more beneficial. I look forward the implementation of AI and digital technologies for these health issues will be flourishing in Indonesia and in the very near futures. This is for me at the end, before my welcome remarks. I look forward, with such an applications ready to be implemented using AI within our data center that being built currently in Indonesia. Why? Because the investment for various companies in Indonesia and the AI and the AI technologies was very large. However, I realized that not many Indonesian professionals know about the progress of this event. Therefore, if anybody of you would like to implement directly the AI on health issues related to climate and related to climate variabilities, I think it's the time now to do so. So thank you, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Prof. Indroyono, for your speech. And let's move to the next session. As we mentioned before, we have three distinguished speakers from the MKG, Maryland University, and IMAX, who will share the climate health-related materials. The next session will be moderated by Professor Hamam Riza, President of Korika. Please, Professor Hamam, the floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi dan salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Nama Budaya, salam kebajikan, salam sehat. Greetings to everyone. First of all, kita panjatkan puji syukur kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, Tuhan yang Maha Esa, atas rahmat dan perkenannya kita semua bisa melaksanakan acara webinar di CTIS, Center for Technology and Innovation Studies, bekerja sama dengan Korika, Collaborative Research and Industrial Innovations in Artificial Intelligence, bersama dengan BMKG, dengan University of Maryland, dengan juga IMAX, Institute of Climate Modeling, yang nanti akan juga menjadi narasumber ya dalam acara kita pagi hari ini. It is really a great time for us to welcome everyone here. Professor Tatiana from University of Maryland, also Dr. Kausik Sarkar from IMAX, as well as our Honorable Deputy Chairman of BMKG, Pak Sena, Arda Sena Sopahalukan, which is one of our earliest promoter in doing the climate and health system in Indonesia. I would like also to take this opportunity to thank Pak Wendy, the chairman of CTIS, as well as other co-chair at CTIS. I see a lot of faces here from CTIS, and everyone that have prepared the time to join this webinar. So without further ado, I will let the first speaker, Dr. Arda Sena from BMKG, to start the presentation. You have around 15 to 20 minutes to share your thoughts on climate health, resilience, and early warning system, so that you have also developed many systems locally here in Indonesia. The time is yours, Pak.
Ya baik, terima kasih Prof. Hamam. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Prof. Hamam Riza, the distinguished President of Korika. Let me also greet and warmly acknowledge Professor Indroyono, the Ambassador of Indonesia to the United States. Also Pak Wendy, the Chair of CTIS, and other distinguished speakers, Prof. Tatiana and Dr. Kausik, my colleague, and distinguished participants of this webinar. Thank you very much for involving BMKG in this continued endeavor in integrating climate health, AI, and also Earth observation to further develop the benefit for society. So let me try to share my screen. Okay, just a second. Okay, so yeah, we have been trying to make application related with weather and climate with health since 2017, actually. And some examples that I will show will relate to that, specifically for early warning related with dengue fever in several areas in Indonesia. And also I will briefly highlight the activity that we have with Corica and IMAX with malaria early warning. So let me start by providing a brief highlight of where we are in terms of the global climate. We are not actually doing well. The Earth is continuously getting warmer. The year 2024, we know, was the warmest year on record. It was the first time that it breaches the 1.5 degree limit, which was agreed in 2015 under the Paris Agreement. The year 2025, which just surpassed, is projected to be the third warmest year on record, but it doesn't mean that the temperature is decreasing. It's just the annual variability between year to year. Last year there was La Nina, so the average global surface temperature slightly decreased, but doesn't mean that the overall net energy budget in the Earth is decreasing. Similar to that, in Indonesia in 2024, we also BMKG recorded that it was the warmest year on record. We recorded 1.15 degrees above the pre-industrial era, slightly lower than the global average. It's understandable because the Northern Hemisphere is, of course, warming faster than other areas of the world, but doesn't mean that the concern is less, but also it doesn't mean that we don't have to do adaptation and as well as mitigation. So we are monitoring the climate in the region since the mid-19th century, actually since the time of the Dutch occupation, and the observation of the climate is continuing in the present time with the use of also advanced satellite observation for temperature, for rainfall, etc. And that is combined with the past decade with perhaps with the between quotes traditional physical-based modeling, but also in the recent time we try to adopt AI and machine learning approaches into some of the aspect of our operation, not yet the whole. We are still in exploration phase in integrating AI and machine learning into our operation. And under the World Meteorological Organization, this is coordinated with, of course, with the FAIR principle, findability, accessibility, interoperability, and reusability. And we try to make application for several application areas, not only for the basic weather and climate itself, but also other sectors which are impacted by weather and climate. And the AI and machine learning is at the time being not yet replacing the whole value chain of the forecast and prediction for weather and climate, but rather it's now complementing the value chain from the pre-processing step, which include observation data, quality control, the analysis and forecast, which includes steps such as data assimilation and model forecast. But we can also use AI and machine learning to recalibrate or post-process the raw model outputs that are still being used for the time being using classical physical atmospheric model. But we can also make further use of AI and machine learning for various product generation and dissemination into various application area, which is now beginning to get more attention and traction also from the sectors as well as from the general public. So in terms of the health application side of weather and climate in BMKG, we have started from 2017. As you know, that vector-borne diseases are projected to rise because of climate change. The way we see how climate controls the impact towards vector-borne diseases are twofold. The first one is climate change increases the area where in the past there was no, for instance, dengue cases. So it is introducing new areas where dengue can appear, while in the areas, for instance, in the tropic where dengue are naturally endemic, it controls the variability between month to month or between season to season, and the magnitude of the cases that can appear in those time scales. And we know very much that climatic factors such as rainfall, temperature, and humidity is playing a critical role. It does not determine directly the number of human which can be infected, of course, but it has a environmental background influence on how the dynamics of the mosquitoes from eggs and then hatching into larvae, into mosquito, etc., and how it will interact with the vulnerability that are present from, for instance, density of humans in urban areas. And under the WHO, WMO collaboration, we have an implementation plan running from 2023 to 2033. We consider 4 grand challenges related with climate and health, and one of them is, of course, infectious diseases, where malaria and dengue is, of course, the prominent one. Besides that, we also consider urban climate health nexus issues such as, for instance, pollution, climate and nutrition nexus, and pathways towards net zero. And all of that global efforts are being consolidated into this one portal managed by the joint office of WMO and WHO called as the Climate Health website. And the landscape of dengue in Indonesia is becoming more and more severe throughout decades. Climate change and climate variability, of course, play a significant role here. But not only that, we see the increasing case is also contributed to the increase because of the increasing density of people living in urban areas or the vulnerability side. And since 2017, we have been trying to integrate climate information into health information. We had a good collaboration with several universities. ITB is among the prominent actors. We have a joint initiative that integrates research into operation and then operation into services for this health, specifically for dengue. At that time, we started from Jakarta, and the services was launched in 2019. and we continue to expand to other area in Bali, and that was launched in 2024. The challenges were that we can have a climate data pretty much everywhere and anytime, any time scale, but that is not the case with health data. We have to promote continuous monitoring of the health data so that we can make such kind of services such that we have those in Jakarta and Bali. And it is just a glimpse of how we do the modeling with a fairly simple statistical model at that time, but it works really well. The simpler it is, the more operational it can be actually. And that results in this operational climate health application for dengue in Jakarta on the panel on the left, and for Bali on the panel on the right. Other than estimating the number of dengue case for 3 months lead time or the incident rate, we also have another product which informs the climate suitability for dengue up to 5 months lead time, and this is actually determined by a threshold exceeding 75% for relative humidity. And this kind of services is not only nice to have, but it's actually very much used by the regional health offices in Jakarta and Bali. It informs action on the field. So as soon as those health officers in Jakarta and Bali sees that our warning information is red, they immediately go to the field and they do fogging, for instance. They do larvae monitoring, they do mosquito breeding site eradication, etc. The future plan is to extend this model into other area in the country, where, for instance, West Java and Central Java are in the pipeline. But of course, this kind of approach determines very much on the reported number of cases from the provinces or from the municipality. This climate health application has been disseminated worldwide. With Corica, we had one side event during COP28, as well as with WMO and WHO. So it's one of the best practices where the services or the climate health application is actually being made in-house with the capacity of the academic and meteorological community within the country. So where do we go from here? We are now developing its second version. We call it as DBD Iklim version 2, still collaboration with ITB, because we are trained traditionally as a modeler. So we think, okay, let's continue to try this. We try to make with kind of dynamical kind of approach using differential equation as well as a Bayesian model. We try to describe the dynamics between larvae and mosquito with influence of the climatic parameters here for temperature, relative humidity, and rainfall. And we also try to include ENSO into the picture and see whether that contributes to the predictability, and it's providing an improved prediction. And including the Bayesian approach, maybe I will just skip this. We are now having a prototype for a vector risk map for West Java, and comparing the actual accumulated risk for the months that has surpassed. We can compare our model of the dengue case risk map with the actual accumulated case, which has occurred before. And this kind of approach does not use the reported case from the health sector, but we can use comparison analysis with area that are actually reporting dengue cases so that we can calibrate our model further. And this is another best practice using AI and weather and climate information. This is a collaboration, of course, with Corica, with IMAX, with Dr. Kausik's team, which is now operation for early warning for malaria throughout the country in Indonesia. And it is being disseminated by this through this website, climatesmart.id. So that is kind of contribution from me, Prof. Hamam, and other colleagues. I hope that contributes to our further discussion today during this very important webinar. Thank you very much, and I give the floor back to Prof. Hamam. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Ardasena, the Deputy Head of BMKG. Very enticing presentation that you have, show us, share with us, and probably this is most recent development that you have, started really a while back. And thank you for all your support and collaborations towards bringing the early warning system for dengue, especially that you have showcased in this occasion. So I will go to some of the questions that probably some of our participants, I want to be really interactive here. So we will just go ahead and give you another 5 minutes to answer some of the questions, probably from the floor here at CTIS, and also from the online participants. Maybe I will be helped by Dr. Lia as the co-moderator to see anyone, post some questions on the chat, or if you want to say it out loud, just raise your hand and we'll hear you from there. Okay, anyone with questions from CTIS here?
If I may.
Okay, yeah. Wendy, please.
Actually, I have no idea at all about this project, but I'm curious to know based on the real experience.
Yeah.
In Indonesia, correct me if I'm wrong, mostly like dengue fever is come out during the dry season, musim panas.
Yeah.
Yeah. With this climate change, it's difficult for us to represent actually which months actually the dry season or which month is actually the wet season in Indonesia. It's so complicated nowadays, the climate. So with that, is it also influence your research and all how you solve with this case? Thank you, Pak.
Can you hear that question, Pak Sena? Okay,
Yes.
please. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Wendy. From our studies, generally speaking, the peak of the dengue season follows 6 to 8 weeks lag time between the compared to the peak of the rainy season. So there is a slight lag. So between 1.5 to 2 months. So it follows the wet season with a lag between 6 to 8 weeks. And with the changing climate, we actually do see not only the change of the pattern, but also new appearances of dengue in places, but also in times where the case was not there before. So let me, for instance, mention the case for the city of Malang in East Java. From the records of the local health office there, we know that in the past in Malang, there was no dengue case during dry season. So dry season in Malang is between late June to say early September, where the climate is generally cool, slightly cooler, but also drier. And so the lowest temperature that is necessary for dengue to develop there is slightly lower than what is required. That is different than Jakarta. In Jakarta, the lowest temperature that we can have in Jakarta is already above the necessary condition for dengue to develop. So that is why in Jakarta we are seeing in every month of the year we have dengue case, although the magnitude, of course, is pretty much influenced also by the seasonality of the climate. But in Malang, between July and September, so in general in the dry season, in the past there was no dengue case. But in the recent year, we see new cases during during the dry season, of course, because the increase of the temperature because of climate change, but also the weather condition because of variability, but also because of climate change in those areas. So we do see the impact of the climate change influencing dengue in Indonesia, Pak. Thank you, Pak.
Okay, thank you so much, Pak Ardasena, for. Can you take one more questions
sure, Pak.
online? So please, Ibu Lia.
Oke, baik, terima kasih. Sudah ada yang raise hand. Silakan Ibu Alma, boleh dalam bahasa Indonesia atau bahasa Inggris?
Okay, thank you so much before for the opportunity. Thank you, Dr. Sena. I'm Alma from Infectious Disease and Immunology Research Center from Faculty of Medicine, University of Indonesia. So actually, I'm Professor Betty's teams. Maybe Dr. Sena knows her. So maybe my question is, I do visit the links about the collaboration between BMKG and also ITB is really awesome works. But my question is, it's only the dengue cases or also the case fatality rate, because the case fatality rate also really important. We have a coordination with the WHO Indonesia yesterday, and then they want to know whether there is a correlation between the climate and also case fatality rate in dengue. Maybe you can elaborate more about these things.
Yeah, thank you, Ibu Alma, for the question. We do actually look at the case fatality rate, but as you know better than me, that influence much more factor, health facilities, hospital, etc., which doesn't correlate much with the climate. So we actually only treat case fatality rate as a kind of motivation to highlight or also to increase the applicability as well as the benefit of having early warning services such as this, and then allow or let the our colleagues in the health sector to address the reduction of fatality rate with health facilities, with other factors that are, of course, much more involved rather than climate, which is kind of broad and only influencing actually from the background point of view. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Sena. I have another maybe like discussions. Right now we also trying to do analysis in the mutations in the viruses. So we do epidemiological study around Indonesia, and then there is serotyping as well. We really want to collaborate with the BMKG as well to see whether there is a correlation between the serotype switching with the climate. Maybe we can do collaborate after this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Ibu Alma. Of course, we are very much welcome collaboration, and of course, it will be also interesting to have this collaboration under the Korika umbrella with Prof. Hamam's team. For the time being, with our warning information, we do not separate yet among serotypes. If there are data available, perhaps we can of course explore, but any kind of climate application is very much determined on the availability of data. So if we have sufficient data, of course we can try the modeling with modelers group, for instance, and this kind of research is of course interesting because it is very multidisciplinary.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Sena.
All right, thank you so much for both of you. Alma from University of Indonesia, and certainly for Dr. Sena that was really kind to be with us today. Please stick around. Probably we will have some other discussion later on. So I would like to ask Professor Tatiana from Geographical Science. Maybe you do a short introduction before you start your presentation. The time is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me to give this talk today. I'm very excited to be here. And thank you to the previous distinguished speaker for setting up this stage so beautifully.
Okay,
so that
on the okay,
you got on?
Okay, that's fine. All right.
Can everybody hear me? Thank you. So thank you for the opportunity. I am professor and chair of the Department of Geographical Sciences at the University of Maryland. Our department is the world-recognized leader in Earth observation monitoring and using Earth observations to support a variety of applications for supporting societal needs, from air quality, infectious diseases, disaster monitoring. I should probably look at my camera. And other applications, agricultural monitoring and food security, etc. So without further ado, I am going to share my presentation. And start.
Yes.
So I would like to introduce today why bringing Earth observations to malaria and dengue early warning systems will likely improve our ability to give early warning, meaningful information to support operational and research endeavors in the public health and other spaces. So why should infectious disease monitoring and forecasting be a priority for climate-smart Indonesia? There are many reasons to worry about climate change. It really impacts a variety of functioning, again, disaster monitoring, economy, everything. Why would be infectious disease so important? Well, the reason is that disease eco niche, which is the ecological niche of an infectious disease that allows a pathogen to survive, reproduce, and spread is very strongly impacted by the environmental conditions, right? And the environmental conditions are really not limited just to climate. They also include other components, such as land cover and land use and interaction with other species. It can be vector species, it can be primate species, and of course, it also has a lot to do with target host availability and distribution. For malaria and dengue, that is people. What people do on the landscape directly impacts how malaria transmission and dengue transmission occurs. So Plasmodium, the malaria-causing parasites, are true parasites, which means that they are unable to survive outside of the host body for any length of time. If a parasite ends up outside of the body, it dies. So how does climate impact parasites? This schematic shows you the CDC illustration of the development of the Plasmodium parasite in this human mosquito loop. Human body is very effective at isolating the parasite from the environmental influence. Human body maintains core temperature very well, and therefore there is no direct influence on the parasite from the climate when the parasite is in people.
Right.
But the climate does impact people. It impacts vulnerability of different people. It also impacts where people are and how likely they are to come into contact with infected mosquitoes. The second component is when the parasite is within a mosquito, it's a lot more vulnerable. Mosquitoes are small, they don't regulate their body temperature so well. So the environment impacts the mosquitoes themselves, but it also impacts the actual parasite when the parasite is within the mosquito. And the primary way that happens is impacting the Plasmodium parasites through temperature regulation. There is a range of temperatures within which the parasites are going to be able to survive and reproduce, right? So, and that range of temperature is very wide. Once it exceeds about 35 degrees Celsius, that's not good. The parasites will not reproduce well at all, and below 15 degrees either. But what really is very important here, within that range, the incubation period of the parasites within mosquitoes is impacted by the temperature. At 18 degrees Celsius, it takes the parasites about 56 days within the mosquito to reproduce, right? To undergo their stage of development when mosquitoes become infectious to people. That's a really long time. Mosquitoes practically don't live that long, right? So when it's cold, even though the parasite can survive, it's not going to be transmitted very well.
Right.
But at just 4 degrees up, at 22 degrees, the intrinsic incubation period shortens to just 19 days. And at 30 degrees, which is what we have today, right? The intrinsic incubation period shortens dramatically to just 8 days. So the increase in temperature while the parasite is a mosquito really impacts how quickly the parasite develops and how transmittable it becomes. But it's a lot more complicated than that, right? There are multiple variables that impact that malaria echo niche. And my presentation today focuses on malaria specifically because every infectious disease has its own echo niche and its own set of requirements. So the temperature is fairly straightforward. It impacts parasites, it impacts mosquitoes, it impacts people. And usually within Indonesian conditions, the temperature is optimal almost all the time, right? So the temperature is unfortunately makes Indonesia very susceptible to malaria. Precipitation is a lot more difficult. If you look at the research, you will notice that some research studies will say a lot more precipitation leads to increase in malaria, and others will say exactly the same thing, only increase in precipitation leads to decrease in malaria. And the reason is that for precipitation, it's not just how much precipitation happened, but what the rate of precipitation was. What kind of, was it a downpour or was it a nice light rain? Because the difference is, if it is a downpour with a high rate of precipitation, we are more likely to wash out mosquito breeding sites, and therefore the mosquito population will have to restart again to get to the transmission potential, right? Whereas the total amount really doesn't impact them that much. With nice gentle rain, the mosquitoes benefit dramatically. They have more breeding sites, they have more potential for breeding. More importantly, even than just amount precipitation, is the availability of breeding sites and the general eco niche for the mosquitoes. And vegetation usually serves as a better indicator of how good the environment is for mosquitoes. The same amount of rain that falls on concrete and on forest is going to produce completely different results for how good of an environment for mosquitoes this amount of rain produces. So the health of vegetation, the availability of vegetation, is usually a better indicator of the overall ecosystem suitability for mosquito populations. Beyond that, land use, and that really encompasses what people do on the landscape, whether it's plantations, it's agriculture, it's forestry activities. That gives us a really good perspective on where people come into contact with mosquitoes during their occupational exposure, right? During their working hours. And it helps us, again, better understand how environment shapes that interface of malaria-human interaction. And of course, extreme events, floods, tornadoes, volcanic eruptions, really extreme events do impact both vulnerability of the population, right, to events, as many people have to leave their areas and evacuate, and then group in very tight proximity and high densities, frequently in areas that are surrounded by forests, and therefore it increases the possibility for transmission of malaria. And in some cases, it decreases the possibility because it's complicated, it's always complex. So that's why it is so difficult to train a model in one place and then take it in another place with different conditions and expect it to perform well. So what role do satellite observations play in infectious disease monitoring? NASA has a huge fleet of satellites, and these are just the satellites that are observing Earth. They have more satellites and telescopes that are looking out into the outer space, right? But I have to say, in beyond is that not single one of those satellites is designed for infectious disease monitoring.
No.
Right?
No.
None. We do have satellites that finally now focus on air quality monitoring.
Oh, yeah?
They're coming online.
Hmm.
But none of these are specifically designed for infectious diseases. But the suite of observations that these satellites provide give a really good representation of the land surface conditions. We're talking about temperature and precipitation and land use and land cover and vegetation health. And these observations are repeated, they're stable, we get them very frequently. That allows us to monitor in dynamic conditions the development disease eco-niche conditions. So this really, the global products, it's not just raw information coming from the satellites. There are multiple teams of people who specifically spend their time developing these data sets that allow us to build very sophisticated models. So in our recent study, we looked at how has the malaria eco-niche changed over the past 20 years using satellite observations primarily. So the way we looked at it, we look at the number of optimal temperature days. That's that range I showed you where the plasmodium and mosquitoes are doing well in. We also looked at the number of optimal precipitation days where the rainfall is not the downpour that washes out the mosquitoes. We looked at the trend in vegetation greenness to look at joint climatic suitability. So in our assessment, we're using fuzzy logic, mathematics to produce a range of scenarios and look at the variable impact. So at the top, you have the best case scenario where this is the best possible. At the bottom, you have the worst possible. And in the middle, you get the trade-off scenario. So the way to interpret that is everything that is green indicates that the conditions haven't changed dramatically during the last 20 years. Everything that is in red or orange, yellow, means that the conditions have improved for malaria. It's not that it's better for people, it's better for malaria, right? And the blues show the areas where the conditions for malaria are no longer as good as they used to be. So I would say that the best case scenario is overly optimistic, and the worst case scenario is overly pessimistic, but the trade-off scenario is probably about right. And what it's showing is even though the conditions, the climate change is happening across the world, right? The conditions that supporting malaria, for example, in Indonesia and in Southeast Asia, haven't changed dramatically, right? In Western India and in the Middle East, they are changing rapidly.
Wow.
And it's kind of very disturbing in a way. But the conditions that are supporting malaria in Indonesia have not decreased and have not drastically increased. So they're pretty much very good. They were very good to begin with. They continue to be very good. What has changed, however, very drastically, is the land use.
Yes.
If you look, Indonesia and Southeast Asia is a hotspot for land use, and specifically the land use that brings people into the intersection with mosquitoes and increased malaria transmission potential. So once you put together the climate change and the land use exposure,
Right.
Southeast countries
Yeah.
become highly vulnerable
Okay.
to increase in malaria transmission.
Yeah.
And particularly you can see Kalimantan and Sumatra,
And Sumatra.
right?
Is
Where
yeah, is red.
the massive land use change is really heightens that potential for malaria transmission. And if you look at different countries that currently do carry malaria, this graph shows the countries that we consider the most vulnerable for increase in malaria transmission over the past 20 years. And Indonesia, if I can find my cursor, is right about here with other countries of Southeast Asia. So Southeast Asia in general, Indonesia particularly, are very vulnerable currently. So how do we develop robust early warning systems for infectious diseases that will introduce Earth observations into that? We are adopting the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change Risk Framework that considered hazard, exposure, and vulnerability, all three components of the risk system. When we're talking about hazard, we're looking at the parasites, mosquitoes, and for the primate malaria, the Nolesi malaria, which is emerging, we also need to consider the secondary host, which is the macaques. And exposure and vulnerability is really focused on people. It's all about people, where they live, what kind of structures they live in that expose them to nighttime biting, and what they do occupationally that exposes them to daytime biting, and also what makes the populations vulnerable to malaria outbreaks. So the typical approach that very many early warning systems across the world use consider the number of cases, the predictor variable, as a function of certain meteorological conditions. And meteorological conditions usually include temperature, precipitation, and humidity in particular space and in particular time. So this typical approach really targets the dynamic changes only in the hazard component, focused on the Plasmodium parasites and the mosquitoes. They consider that the population, human structure, exposure, and vulnerability do not change, right? And so this system works very well unless the exposure and vulnerability change, right? Once the vulnerability and exposure change, then the predictive power of the typical approach decreases and new models need to be parameterized to increase that predictive power again. In our approach, we treat risk as a combination of hazard, exposure, and vulnerability, which are presented by combination of different variables. We again are looking at precipitation, temperature, vegetation, health, and availability. We're looking at the primates distribution, but in the intersection zones of forest stage and settlements. We're looking at exposure through population structure types and occupational exposure through land cover and land use. And we're also considering vulnerability through the social vulnerability components, through access to care, and incorporating extreme events into our modeling framework. So if you compare them side to side, the typical epidemiological based models are very accurate. They're frequently based on regression approaches. And they are computationally very straightforward. They do not require massive HPCs, high performance computing, because they have limited number of inputs. But their biggest limitation is that they're not generalizable in space and time. So the proposed approach here is going to be based on artificial intelligence and digital twin models. Right? Okay. So we're bringing a lot of variables that have a more detailed portrayal of the ecosystem. And they become, because we have multiple variables and very robust representation of the ecosystem, they can and only can sufficiently operate on deep learning models, on AI. It's virtually impossible to find a simple statistical relationship that's going to fit in that framework. They're computationally complex and require a large suite of input variables, but they're not only locally accurate, they're regionally accurate, and they're generalizable across space and time. So how am I doing on
Yeah,
time?
you have another 10 minutes at almost. Okay.
Thank you.
We need to spare some minutes for the Q&A.
Right.
Right.
So I'm going to give a very quick example of how we used satellite observations in the previous system we developed for Myanmar. And that system was a simplified system of what I'm presenting today. It was like version 1 developed 10 years ago when we didn't have the capacity and the AI wasn't where it is today. So we use different observations, satellite observations of surface water temperature, vegetation health, population distribution, land use, land cover, access to care, and social vulnerability to build a framework which was parameterized through expert assigned weights.
Right.
We worked with the local practitioners and researchers in the public health who helped us assign different weights, important weights, to these parameters that we indicated. We built the custom land cover and use map with categories that are important specifically for malaria. If I had to build a new model for dengue, I would choose different categories, for example, because dengue has different reality on the ground. We also used satellite monitoring of vegetation stress and temperature, land surface temperature, daytime and nighttime, so that we can gauge that range of optimal temperature for mosquitoes and parasites. Whenever somebody shows you pretty maps from satellite data, I have to be very honest, it means that there was a lot of work that went behind the scenes to create those maps. This is what it really looks like. A lot of cloud cover abstracts and prohibits from observing Earth's surface. So the red color here, this is June 18th of 2016, shows all the areas that the satellites could not see on the surface. So we had to do a lot of work to fill the gaps and downscale the satellite observations to create these wall-to-wall maps of temperature distribution. We have developed those approaches. They are operationally deployable, so we intend to use those in the new system. We did the same thing for vegetation change throughout the months. When we looked at the population distribution, one challenge in Myanmar, unlike Indonesia, their villages were not well mapped. We didn't even know where people were, so the first thing we had to do is find where those villages were and how they're changing from year to year. And once we had the distribution, the good distribution of villages, we could improve the distribution of people across the landscape. And then we converted that into the density classes. We used occupational exposure from our base map to infer how much of the malaria transmission can happen due to different occupation of population. So areas that were having plantation, logging, and mining activities are known areas of high transmission. Urban areas are areas of very low transmission for malaria, which is interesting. And finally, looking at vulnerability, Myanmar has undertaken its social vulnerability map, which we translated into the vulnerability classes within the model. And then we did a lot of work, again, trying to estimate how easy it is for people to receive care based on the type of road network and how far from different facilities they were. So we created the access to care layer, this one on the right, where you can see the green shows easy access to care, and the yellow, orange, and red shows very difficult access to care for some areas. It's interesting that the most malarious regions also have, of course, the most challenges with access to care and treatment. So combining them all together, we were able to build a Myanmar-wide malaria burden potential model, right? This model was operating on 240-meter resolution. So, and it was very dynamic with 8-date update. And because there is this lag between when the environmental conditions change and the malaria outbreak actually occurs, we gave about 1 to 2 months forecast on when the change in malaria prevalence is likely to occur. So
Okay, last 3
last one.
minutes, maybe.
That's right. So we're going to implement that same approach in this new system that we're proposing within this project. We're building on the development that already exists in Corica based on the previous work of Climate Smart Indonesia. We're going to focus on malaria, Nalesa malaria, and dengue within the system. And the final thing that I would like to leave you with, why it should be priority for Indonesia in general, because infectious disease is not just the public health issue. It is more than just health. What infectious diseases are is a chronic societal destabilizer and systemic risk amplifier. So climate change impact amplifies everything. And so the change in climate impacts the success of elimination efforts. It's not just because the elimination efforts are good, the ecosystem is changing. It impacts economic stability and development, both for productivity loss and educational loss of population. The state capacity and government is also impacted. It puts strain on delivery of services, and it erodes public trust. It amplifies conflicts, as conflict zones frequently reservoirs for infectious diseases, and reduces military responsibility. And finally, and very importantly, the globalization means that the process of malaria transmission, the rapid spread, the continuous reintroduction of the parasites and vectors in different areas require continuous monitoring.
Right.
And I don't know that the artemisinin-resistant parasites already are present in Indonesia, but they are present in Cambodia, Thailand, in Myanmar, right? And so are insecticide-resistant mosquitoes.
Insecticide resistant.
Right, so our typical ways of battling malaria are under threat. So if we lose our ability to use effective drugs and effective insecticides, malaria will resurge. And it's only really a matter of time because it's moving very fast. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you. It's great presentations and also very details and easy to understand, right? Yeah, that's something that I really need from a professor to describe this problem and then solutions, propose solutions, and certainly I will kickstart the one question, because probably every one of us have heard about this malaria. Some of us already suffer from this malaria, certainly, and dengue as well. But what is really the novelty of the research? Is it Earth observation is something new for malaria or infectious disease in general? Right.
Earth observations have been used for a long time, but the use was always very limited to, again, the same climate variables, right? People always use temperature, precipitation, and in some cases, vegetation indices, because that's one piece of information that we have had since 1970s, right? But with the great expansion in satellite observations, we now have data sets that have not been routinely used, but should be included in this modeling. And the real true novelty is that the incorporation of this great amount of data sets that give you a lot of knowledge about the conditions on the ground really requires the use of artificial intelligence. There is no way of running the complex models without artificial intelligence. So we're hoping that partnering with Corica and the expertise of Corica in artificial intelligence is going to help promote and boost the development of these systems.
Okay, great. All right, so I will turn to Ibu Lia to seek anyone from the offline, the online first.
Go to the ground again.
Go to the ground again.
Ask the people here.
I will.
Ask the people here. Okay, let's go.
So we open again the discussion session. If you have any question or want to share something to Professor Tatiana, please raise your hand and mention your name and affiliation. Actually, we have one question in the column chat.
Okay.
I will read it for you. So, Prof. Tatiana, my question is, did you try to analyze the other factor, for example, tick or fly?
So I did not. I'm an expert. I've been focusing on malaria, but there are many other scientists who are interested in other vectors and other vector-borne diseases. We have experts who focus on tick-borne diseases. We have a lot of those actually in the US and in Canada, where ticks are a much bigger problem, frankly, than mosquitoes.
Right.
We have other experts who are interested in other diseases. So there have been a lot of development in that area. I myself am not involved in that, but I'm happy to make introductions and put you in touch with other experts in using Earth observations for infectious diseases and vector-borne diseases.
All right. Anyone? Any others? No? So we'll turn to the ground. Pak Wendy, Pak Aryono, Pak Aswin. Okay. Pak Arif. Okay.
This is well explained and articulated for Tatiana. Thank you so much for the presentation. Just straight to the point, in terms of these applications, how can we ensure that the new this registration system continues to run effectively in Indonesia after the initial 3 years ends, project ends?
Well, the goal for this project is not just to build the system, but really to transfer the capabilities to in-country collaborators. We hope that Corica takes on this responsibility of carrying and continuing to develop this model, because as you all know, the technology and especially IT is developing so fast that the technology tends to get obsolete very, very fast, and continuous development is key. We have the entire very large community in the global Earth observations who are willing and able to serve in advisory capacity to help develop, but the responsibility for continuous monitoring will be transferred to Indonesia. And we hope and to make sure that everybody here is ready.
Right.
And we have built enough capacity to continue growth of this. And I'm also hoping that it will grow beyond just malaria and dengue to other diseases and to other applications. Really, that's the key.
So the technology for this monitoring disease be used for other purposes, and what rules are needed to prevent misuse?
Misuse is difficult, right?
Well, this
So-
is
Critical question.
It is.
as long as we can trust the AI. As
long as we can trust the
AI models that comes along with this research, we should be okay. Yeah. Hopefully, always technology have this risk, right?
Yes.
Of misuse, including AI.
Misuse.
AI can be, as you can see now, in our AI community, AI tools are used to, strip off your dress, and many other things, right? So, but this is really, I think, in light of what we need to, adopt to climate change and build climate resilience community, especially on health. I think that will be something that everyone will benefit from this research, right?
So
this
my
research,
hope
right?
is that we will continue to validate these models, right, and compare them to the actual observations, both to improve the models themselves and to make sure that whatever information they are providing is actually accurate. This is the first important step. The second one, I would say, is that how the information is used and distributed is within really the control of the Indonesian government at this point. So, right, I would recommend that it is started as a tool that supports government operations.
Okay.
And how it is communicated to the public, I would also leave it to the professionals. Those agencies who can do
right.
it.
So that's why I need to also to inform to Pak Wendy and all the participants. One of the objective of the visit is actually to meet with the stakeholders. So Professor Tatiana have met with BMPB, the Disaster Management Agency. We met with Dr. Raditya Jati, the Deputy for System and Strategy. We also met the Minister of Health, Pak Budi Gunadi Sadikin, yesterday, as well as the Vice Head of BRIN, the National Research and Innovation Agency. And tomorrow we'll go and visit Pak Ardasena at BMKG to meet with the head of BMKG, as well as our member there, Pak Purwadi. Also, Michael Purwadi at BMKG. Yeah. Please, Pak.
First of all, I will have to acknowledge that I really enjoy your explanation of lesson. Very, very informative. My background is nothing to do with this structural engineering, but I can, to me, at least I understand what your explanation. I hope I'm not wrong, and you really are a very good professor. I believe that your student like it very much. But one thing, I'm interested with your Myanmar model, because this is the model that you already developed, right? So since 2014, if I'm not mistaken.
2016 to 2020.
Okay, now it's already almost 10 years. My question is like, you mentioned also about the validation. What is the validation and in terms of the accuracy of your model during these 10 years? Because I don't know, I want to see your your honest information about this, because I believe the effort or the initiative to the model of predicting the disease like this maybe already started for. There are several initiatives, I guess, but this one is one of the initiatives that we consider as an advanced initiative using the AI. However, I'm just worried that if people get too confident about this they might, he mentioned about the issues, but they also to worry about what they not know too much what we call it, confident about this. Yeah. So in terms of the possible accuracy, etc., can you give explanation?
Yes, of course. So with Myanmar, the challenge was that they didn't actually have a lot of data to drive it. So the epidemiological surveillance was done very well within areas where malaria was very low, but the areas where malaria is actually high, they had very limited access to areas for epidemiological surveillance. So we did not have good data.
For comparing this.
Correct. So what we ultimately built, and that's why it's called malaria burden potential, right? So we built a model that indicated the risk, where we think the risk is elevated, where the risk is high, but we could never predict the number of cases because we didn't have the actual epidemiological surveillance in the key regions of Myanmar. More challenging is 6 months before I was able to transfer this model to the stakeholders in Myanmar. Myanmar had the military coup. And my project was terminated and I was never able to transfer it to the stakeholders.
Okay.
I certainly hope that it wasn't my fault.
Not until 2028 when you deliver the project to Indonesia, then there will be a military. Okay. Hey, now, but I need to cook now for the discussion. Please hold your thoughts and your questions later on because we have our next speaker. Last but not least, very important, my good friend, Dr. Kaushik Sarkar. He's the director of IMAX, Institute for Modeling, Climate Modeling. You will introduce yourself, Dr. Kaushik. And Dr. Sarkar is one of our initiator for climate smart Indonesia. Working with Malaria No More. Please, the time is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hamam. And Tatiana, a high five from here. We are very glad to start this research initiative with you. I'll quickly share my screen and we'll kick off with the intro. Just allow me a moment. So, the Institute for Health Modeling and Climate Solutions, IMAX, is a global center of excellence within Malaria No More. And we have worked across 15, I think more than 15 countries now to support governments and partners leveraging the power of artificial intelligence in advancing health security and global health resilience against shocks such as climate change. My name is Dr. Kaushik Sarkar. I'm a physician epidemiologist turned AI engineer, the founder director of IMAX, and the co-principal investigator of this research led by Professor Loboda. Indonesia is close to my heart simply because this is where we started scaling artificial intelligence within a multi-stakeholder ecosystem to address the health climate nexus. We are grateful to Dr. Hammam and his team at Korika and the government of Indonesia for the continued partnership. And over the past 3 years, we feel like becoming one single family working together to advance science and technology to improve health security. And today, I really feel we stand at an inflection point as we are at the brink of bringing cutting-edge science as the foundation of one of the most powerful AI advances that has been brought globally to secure health through the Climate Smart Indonesia initiative. As Dr. Sena and Dr. Tatiana elucidated, when conditions tilt in favor of infectious diseases, they do not merely persist. They kind of entrench themselves. Dengue and malaria in particular are the ringleaders of this notorious cohort. They are adaptive, resilient, and deeply opportunistic. So their danger lies not only in their suffering that they inflict over communities, but also in their ability to strike very precisely when vigilance wanes. They do not announce their arrival. They kind of do an ambush. And moments of unpreparedness have repeatedly proven to be the Achilles heel of public health systems. And those moments are rarely accidental. They emerge when interventions must thread their way through reprioritized funding ecosystems, constrained resources, fragmented data systems, and environmental conditions that are changing faster than our institutional reflexes can keep up. And in such terrain, even the best intentioned strategies can lose their footing. At the same time, you heard Dr. Sena talking about it. Climate change doesn't knock politely. It is rewriting the rules very quietly. Temperature shifts, erratic rainfall patterns, humidity patterns that tip the scales. Together, they're creating a perfect tailwind for climate-sensitive infectious diseases, including malaria and dengue. Climate Smart Indonesia was born from one realization. You cannot manage tomorrow's disease burden with yesterday's tools in the presence of infectious disease patterns, which I call regime shifts. Our objectives were deliberately very practical for this initiative. First, we needed to predict better, not just academically, but also operationally. Second, turn cross-sectoral data into insight, not like dashboards for display, but signals for decisions that can empower policymakers and public health authorities. Third, enable faster, smarter allocation of resources, because delays don't just cost money, they are costing lives. Now I'll talk a little bit about the three-pronged approach. We can call it a kind of three-part playbook that we had in Climate Smart Indonesia. First is pioneering innovative digital solutions, all thanks to Korika for orchestrating this very powerful technology partnership. Second, strengthening coordination and capacity. And then third, deploying technology and making sure it actually gets used. And these are not work that are done sequentially. We need to work simultaneously, and that's where we started. And we understood that systems fail when technology runs ahead of institutions. So we work together in multiple prongs to address various challenges and bottlenecks. Climate Smart Indonesia was not a pilot in isolation. We had a national alliance, 3+ ministries, 2 formal MOUs signed by CORICA, dozens of stakeholder engagements, technical experts were embedded, field validation were done, not just armchair modeling, and we had several digital solutions delivered, not prototypes, but kind of operational assets. And then probably this slide matters more than, how it just looks. Our aim was not merely to build tools, but to architect an integrated early warning and decision support ecosystem. So we brought together models capable of translating insights into locally actionable intelligence with the help of stakeholders. As I mentioned, prediction was never pursued as an academic exercise. It was pursued as a means to enable preparedness. And experience has taught us that technology does not succeed on design and development alone. It never has. So if scale is the ambition, and it must be, then technology must be embraced holistically. You need market entry strategies, policy alignment, cross-ministerial coordination, local technical capacity, and institutional trust. We were just talking about trust, I think, 5 minutes ago. And all of these are not peripheral considerations. They are kind of fundamental pillars. Many countries spend decades laying that groundwork, and disease does not respect those boundaries, those timelines. So we, the partners of Climate Smart Indonesia, aligned institutions that not frequently share the same table. That alignment is the real innovation that happened over the past few years through the leadership of CORICA and our partnership. Technology scaled fast, trust scales slow. So we tried to invest in both. Now coming to the suite of different digital solutions we could advance. As you see, this is a decision stack. We have a climate health data lake, a digital twin for disease early warning. Our partners at Mohammed bin Zayed University of Artificial Intelligence developed a fantastic AI-assisted microscopy tool. We had multi-disease decision intelligence dashboard developed within CORICA. So this constellation together, you can consider it as a radar for public health, for early signals and not late alarms. Now, I must say that Indonesia is a great nation, so is its government. We encountered a government that does not linger in deliberation. It thinks decisively and acts with velocity. That agility combined with strategic leadership and buy-in across ministries created a great enabling environment rarely seen at national scale. And I'm telling you that after working as many, probably 17 countries so far. It allowed us to move beyond pilot experiments toward operational deployment. You saw a live example in the commitment of Dr. Ardasena, and we witnessed that in the past with officials from the Ministry of Health, Environment, Comdigi, and others. So that leadership buy-in changes everything. When climate data informs health strategy at the top, response kind of cascades faster downstream. You have strong data, early warning, and then surveillance that actually sees around corners. And that's how resilience is built. Again, a very important forum within Climate Smart Indonesia was the last year's Innovation Forum. This was a project to platform handoff from national deployment to a regional ambition. The idea of having regional center of excellence, it was not a symbolic one. It's a very strategic mandate that we could shape in the country. And a part of that aspiration was to advance the science and technology leadership through collaboration with leading institutions such as the University of Maryland. Finally, I'm coming to a little more technical slide that's going to be fundamental for this particular research study as we continue to start. So this slide is where AI earns its keep. You know, global models are powerful, but they are blunt instruments. And local reality, as you heard Tatiana talking about it a bit, is messy, fragmented, and non-linear. So our work focuses on translation from global signals to local decisions. And this is exactly where AI stops being theoretical and starts becoming useful. So let me briefly unpack what you are seeing here. This is a heuristic structure that we will pressure test against granular data from modeling point of view, as Tatiana, Dr. Hammam, Dr. Sena, and I work together to increase the scalability of predictions. It's informed by our global spectra model. At its core, this architecture is designed to translate climate signals into disease risk with contextual intelligence. We begin with multimodal inputs. You see a few, but there would be many. Temperature, precipitation, humidity, vegetation, and several other indices. And then the historical malaria and dengue incidents. And these are not treated as flat variables. They are encoded through convolutional layers that capture spatial structure and local dependencies. And climate is embedded within it as a texture. The model learns that texture. We then move into attention-based variational autoencoders. And this is really critical because the attention mechanism allows us and allows the system to weigh which signal matter most at different time point. You heard Tatiana talking about how difficult it is to think about ecological niche models when it comes to the differential pressure of temperature, humidity, rainfall, and various other environmental parameters and their influences on diseases like malaria and dengue. So, in other words, attention mechanism allows us to learn what to focus on. The latent space compresses complex climate disease interactions into a structured representation and a kind of compact but information-rich embedding. That representation then fits into recurrent neural network components which capture temporal dynamics. Disease transmission becomes path-dependent, and what happened last month starts shaping what happens next month. That understanding gets embedded into the modeling part. So those RNN models like LSTM, etc., temporal convolutional network, they are tied together to bring that memory. Finally, dense layer refine the signal and produce probabilistic predictions for malaria and dengue incidents. So in essence, this is not just a prediction, it's a structured learning across space, time, and climate volatility. So with that, let me turn to where I started. AI is not the holy grail, but it is a critical enabler. We don't want to replace judgment. We want to use AI to sharpen it. Climate Smart Indonesia shows what happens when data, institutional strengths, and intent line up. With the deep research insights in Earth observation and disease interaction of the University of Maryland, with the ongoing national leadership of Corica in AI and digital collaborations, with the sustained buy-in from Government of Indonesia, BMKG, Kementerian Kesehatan, especially P2PM, Komdigi, and other stakeholders, We, through this research, plan to equip the system that we have built together over the years into one of the most powerful forecasting and prediction systems to fight the notorious diseases like dengue and malaria. And that's how we stop being surprised. That's how we act early and responsibly. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sakshik. What a wonderful presentation. Historically, that we started quite way back, and I believe that you are working also towards the futures. So I'm really happy that one of the most important step that we have taken today is to announce that our journey to build the climate resilience health system is continuing with the project that Professor Tatiana Loboda here from University of Maryland is researching and get funding from NASA to continue this journey. So this is really wonderful. So I want to spend the last 10 minutes for all of us to post some questions. I will start with the one in the office here on the ground. There is Prof. Haryono. Actually, when I started my career at BBPT, he was the top boss for me. Yeah, as engineer, research engineer. So it was during the time that he was the deputy chairman of BBPT at that time that I got the scholarships to go. Pak Haryono,
Okay,
please.
thank you for the opportunity. Actually, I'm really, let's say, rather ignorant up to now about this, although I've heard for a long time that we have fought for a long time, and even it's happened that my father-in-law was so-called expert in malariologist and spent time in Iraq, Somalia, Afghanistan, something like that. So what you have expressed is really very, very interesting, and I think I was provoking. See, how's the progress so far? I thought it has been eradicated because of the, let's say, global cooperation, and I think WHO has been there for some time. Mentioned about new approaches and how to monitor in order to be able to control and I think eradicate malaria, dengue, and probably related infected diseases, and how you could do that with the progress in technology, especially in various observation techniques, satellite or maybe right now with found observation system, and then what is really new is the influence of the climate change and how these interact, and then what's really interesting, what AI can do, because I thought AI, whatever it is, it has to be initiated and supported with at least two things: technology from human and also the let's say the progressive and that can develop algorithm associated with that. So in that case, I just like to ask you, how's the status right now, and how can people in general contribute to this effort first in a, like say, structured organization, like from the government and from the private, let's say, NGO that are really mission oriented, and then from the public at large, especially in awareness and, let's say, day-to-day guidelines. I think this is in short. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. I'll let you go first, Dr. Kausik, and then probably Prof. Tatiana can also respond to that. Because Professor Haryono asked about how AI can be so good for for this case, for this problem of monitoring, right?
I'll quickly touch on the point on the AI side, and then we'll turn to Tatiana for the remaining. This understanding practically came, I think, a decade ago. You probably have seen more than 100 of different prediction models for different diseases. So some say that, our model is very good, fantastic, accurate. So let's say we develop a model in Papua or Lampung province of Indonesia. Let's take for example. And if you want to take that model to, let's say not even another country, but within Indonesia, let's say to Jakarta. I'm more or less 100% confident that if you are taking a model to Jakarta, the accuracy is going to get dropped at least by 30 to 40% in those ecosystem differences. And the reason behind this is in the space of AI, we call it, or in maths, we call it ill-posed inverse problem. No unique climate situation trigger unique disease situation, and no unique disease situation can be connected back to unique climate information patterns. So you will see 100 millimeter rainfall pattern causing a dengue surge somewhere, whereas the same weather pattern not causing a dengue surge in other places. A classical example many countries saw during 2023 dengue upsurges across Malaysia, Bangladesh, Indonesia, and several other countries. It's called regime shift, which happens through the complex influence of climate on diseases. The way AI helps here is we humans are tilted towards thinking linearly. Whatever parametric statistical models that were used in the past, they were fundamentally linear models. When machine learning came, it tried to automate those statistical models. We eventually entered the space of nonlinearity with the popularization of deep neural networks, when we started understanding that how multiple neurons and linear functions within that start or allow us to better represent nonlinear and complex patterns, especially ill-posed problems. So this is exactly why AI is capable of helping develop very scalable model.
Okay.
I think
Thank you,
one
Dr.
thing I
Kausik.
would
Let me stop you there. I want to turn to Professor Tatiana, and then maybe later on you can step in again. All right? Okay. Yeah, please.
Thank you so much for your question. It's very deep and it's difficult to answer quickly. I think to add to Kaushik's wonderful description of AI capabilities, I would say that it will be impossible for a single organization, even if it's as brilliant as Korka is, to make sure that this will become the norm and it happens.
Yeah.
It will take coordinated effort from multiple ministries, from multiple organizations, and as you pointed out, from the international community. So WHO has put a goal of eliminating malaria by 2030. We were doing really well from about 2010. The global incidence of malaria just dropped, right? The drop was so substantial. But since about 2019, we're seeing the resurgence. It's starting to grow again, just about everywhere in the world. And there's a lot of reasons for that. The funding has diminished, the approaches have stopped being as effective. And I think, personally, although it's really, we know that there is some evidence, but it's impossible to prove everywhere. The ecosystems, the eco niches are changing. The mosquitoes becoming smarter. They are adapting. So most of the previous technologies were based on spraying inside buildings at night, because that's what the textbooks told us. That's when transmission was happening. About 5 years ago, we had irreversible proof that mosquitoes do not just bite inside at night, they have adapted to bite outside during daytime, right? But we, as people, did not adapt. We continued to spray at night inside the buildings. And no matter, right, how much we were trying to convince people on the ground that it's still important, but it's not the only thing. The operational agencies were resistant to welcome the new information. So I think it's going to be a challenge. We need to continuously monitor what's happening with the ecological niche. We need to have, honestly, more scientists out there looking at how mosquitoes are adapting, how people's behaviors are changing, and then looking at all of it together with enhanced new treatments and develop new strategies. Because I think what worked very well in the beginning is not good enough anymore. So we need to continue evolving with the mosquitoes to be able to eradicate malaria. I don't think 2030 anymore is a likely time frame. We're not making the progress we need to be making right now. But 2045, Indonesia,
Right.
we are hoping that that's a viable goal,
Yes.
and it's a viable target.
Mosquitoes smarter than us.
They do what they have.
Maybe they have
They're
AI
flexible.
Right.
Interesting.
Interesting. Okay, Leah, please, try to get the from online.
Okay, there is one question in the column chat, so I will have to read this. Thank you, Dr. Sarkar. This is from Alma, from Indonesia University. Do you also observe, is there any correlation between the intervention, such as in Indonesia, there is 3M plus program to prevent dengue. So is there any correlation between the intervention with the number of cases in your models? Because this kind of finding will be very useful to evaluate whether the program work or not in terms of preventing the. To Dr. Kausik.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for that very important question. I know it's important. Under the Climate Smart Indonesia initiative, we never attempted an impact evaluation of an intervention of any of the public health interventions, be it on the dengue side or malaria side. Having said that, what I can infer from the models that we prepared in the past is that we included anomaly detection in the patterns of diseases. And we noticed that some of those anomalies are definitely not connected with weather patterns, especially when drops are noted. So the only triangulation that I can indicate from there, or I can infer from there, is they can be from certain human interventions. Whether that is the intervention you are talking about, it will require controlled evaluation with measurements. However, surveillance data does not include any information related to programs. As I mentioned, you need a separate research for that.
Okay, all right. So probably some other question from Pak Bambang. Please, Pak. This is he's the the high level officers at Ministry of Public Works. So he deals with a lot of development, and probably malaria and dengue affected his worker. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, many workers. Yeah.
Flowers with smells that mosquito doesn't like that. So actually, this is very important information that local wisdom that very important that to be considered. Yeah, include the environments. Yeah, that's why. Population is very important. Number of population, it might be the area, but the vegetation is also important. That's why compared to other areas like Sumatra, Kalimantan, which is very not habitat, yeah. Not much habitat yet. It's information that very useful also.
Definitely, that is a very good point.
The difference between malaria and dengue,
Yeah.
right? And why a lot of
a lot of interest is on modeling predicting dengue is that malaria is a rural disease, villages,
Right.
outside of cities, and dengue is the urban disease. Happens mostly in cities. And it happens, the difference really is the mosquitoes that transmit the two diseases. But because dengue happens in cities, the number of infections is always higher. So when we were at the Ministry of Health yesterday, the minister highlighted how important dengue is because the number of cases is so much higher compared to malaria. But the reality is, if for whatever reason you put a large number of people in the areas where malaria is, the number of cases, for whatever reason, for public works, if they go there to build something, right, they immediately become very vulnerable to malaria that we didn't even consider before because nobody was there, right? So population distribution, when we're considering it on the landscape, definitely makes, it's a big component of disease burden, right? But because population moves across landscape for different reasons, we need to consider that movement as part of the predictive model, right? Because if we from satellites will not know, but you and agency will know when people are expected to go into a certain area. And we could consider how safe they're going to be there from disease. And I think that's going to be a helpful component.
That the local wisdom put the specific species of vegetation.
That is key. Local wisdom is always highly important. And it would be wonderful if we could find a way to represent that in the model. That will probably require local expertise and maybe engagement with the university here in Indonesia, who could create that representation of local level wisdom and knowledge and strategies that we could incorporate. Thank you. That was marvelous.
Okay, so now I will turn to the last person to ask questions. I have here Dr. Aswin Sasongko. He's the former boss of Kominfo. Okay, you see that Dr. Kaushik show us the Vice Minister Nezar in his slide. Now we have the ComDG also. Please, Pak Aswin.
Actually, my comment is short and easy. You know, number one, we develop many countries. Many experts are developing models, ICT models for health, for malaria, for others. So. And one of my job is to review proposals also, so I can see so many proposals about making models for malaria, for other diseases. My question is actually, when you make a model, then you have to get all those data. Now, that's number one. Secondly, you will make the model in accordance to the situation of the area, of the country. Now, in this case, how can you transfer the model that developed in a particular country to another country like Indonesia? Because you see, I don't see many other countries that looks like Indonesia with small islands here, small islands there, and so on and so on. That is my first comment. My second comment is that making models is very interesting, very good. But actually, when you go through if you pass Jakarta, you are talking about malaria. I think why we are talking about making ICT models? It is difficult. While you can see that the waste is everywhere, and many parts are dirty. Water is not flowing in the sewage. The sewage is blocked with other waste, plastic waste, or whatever waste. So why we should start with some model? Why we don't just try to do whatever is in front of my eyes? I can see it. I mean, when you go to a doctor, the doctor will not, and you say, "Oh, doctor, I got something. My body is not so good," and so on. The doctor will not tell you, "Okay, you do MRI, you make X-ray, and so on." They will think, "Okay, just make, check your temperature, check your
Blood pressure.
and so on." You don't start directly to the MRI and so on and so on. So why we don't start for many countries like Indonesia? Why
We solve the problem.
Perhaps we should solve the problem not by high technology, but by standard operating procedures. If you have a waste, clean it. If you have a sewage, clean it. So that's
Maybe that.
I mean, we were told like this since we were babies. We were small, you know what I mean?
Okay, well,
Okay, that's all.
thank you so much. All right. Okay, who wants to go first? Maybe I see that Dr. Adasena is here. Probably with local wisdom, on how to use any kind of solution for this. Pak Sena, did you hear the question from Pak Aswin?
Yes, thank you, Pak. I vaguely hear the question. I do agree. Actually, we have to combine both approaches, model approaches as well as more practical approaches. And what we also try to encourage with the activity that we have in BMKG, but also under the activities with Korika, also to encourage improved standards for sectors to collect their data so that we can combine those data and serve with better services for the society. I think that is the pragmatic way to do things in my perspective.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay,
Pak.
now turns to Prof. Tatiana. Respond to Pak Aswin.
You're right. Right, that's the short answer.
Yes.
But if we clean everything, Jakarta looks beautiful. It will do nothing to eliminate malaria.
Okay.
Right? So that's essentially the issue. I don't know if you know, but malaria, over the length of entire human history, has killed more people than anything else. Than all wars combined, any other disease, plague, you name it. Malaria is the biggest killer of humanity in general. So we need to get rid of it. And for Indonesia to be able to grow, having malaria and dengue outbreaks, it really impacts how population is functioning, right? And it takes away resources from other issues. So if we can eliminate that globally, then we can start focusing on other things. But you're right. There's too many things to focus on.
Yeah, I think Pak Sena also mentioned this, and I see his slide. Even WMO is really looking on the infectious disease, not limited to malaria. But as you said, one of the biggest killer is malaria and dengue. Dengue is even, they say it's now is more than malaria in Indonesia.
in Indonesia.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Is that right, Pak Sena?
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I think going forward, we have to also consider diseases or sickness that are caused by air pollution, especially in big cities.
Yeah, I want to turn to Dr. Kaushik now, because Dr. Kaushik also is doing a lot of things across the world. I think most recently that I heard you are doing it in Bangladesh, Dr. Kaushik. Or
Yeah, we are
before that
doing
is in Africa, right? Yeah.
We are doing it across, I think, 8 countries now. So those, and quickly respond to, I think, the previous question. There were a couple of questions, and I saw one remain unaddressed. One question was, bringing Myanmar's model to Indonesia. Why do we think that it would be good? So the answer to that question is Indonesia, or Climate Smart Indonesia, we did have models. In fact, Dr. Leah and colleagues, they have published the existing models already in a couple of high impact publications. The reason we are trying to bring the insights from the model that Dr. Tatiana led, it's one of a kind model that includes the power of Earth observation. Earlier, we included weather information first from the Copernicus data store and then from BMKG. But there are that were at a coarse granularity level, and we can go down at a farther granular level and make these models more adaptive to spatial downscaling. That would eventually allow us to focus on smaller populations, more vulnerable pockets of the country. Second, the point that you asked, that why would we even want to predict, and why not turning to the conventional tools or methods? There is a consensus globally at this point that prevention is better than cure. Previously, we heard that epidemiologists talking about this. Now there are more than 15 leading articles proven through different research studies. And when we use conventional articles, what you are talking really about is using the existing surveillance data. So surveillance data allows you at best to act early when the disease has actually started. But prediction allows you to plan much before. Dengue upsurge, especially when it starts, it won't allow 3 months period for you to plan and deploy your resources. You need to act much before. The Honorable Minister Budi and his leadership, I know our organization and our sister organization, they are leading this work with Ulbakia with support from ADB in Indonesia. And Ulbakia is a preventive intervention. So similarly, for malaria also, there are several preventive interventions. If you want to apply those preventive interventions, it is very important to understand where you can apply those interventions and where you should apply those interventions. So forecasts and outbreak predictions, anomaly detections, these are techniques or tools that empower you to make those decisions. So I think that's why it's really critical that we turn to prevention rather than response once the disease has started. I think, the only thing, Dr. Hammam, very pleased to inform you as well, you are talking about these countries. The Spectra model is going to be in the AI best practice paper for Global South to be published by WHO on the 17th. So this is going to be a globally scalable one, can be replicated by other countries as well.
Great, Dr. Kausik. Thank you very much. So I will ask for just 1 minute closing from all of the speakers. Pak Sena, please.
Yes, thank you again, Prof. Hamam, and participants as well as the distinguished speakers. I think these efforts, which has now been jointly even more strengthened throughout this collaboration, is the way to go for us to tackle this climate health challenges through interdisciplinary approach. And collaboration is really the enabler for us to better serve the society to tackle this challenge.
Right.
Thank you, Pak.
Thank you, Pak. Next to Dr. Kausik, the online device. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Hamam. This collaboration is really critical, as Dr. Sena and Dr. Hamam mentioned. I would urge that we work together collaboratively, and a stronger data cooperation is really critical to make or to accelerate the progress of this research. So I would expect that, with Minister Budi's leadership and Ministry of Health support, BMKG's collaboration, and BNPB and other industries, and especially the Satu Health platform that Indonesia has, we can move really quickly in terms of integrating different data systems and ensure that we can build a world-class model which becomes scalable and replicable across different settings. And thanks to Professor Loboda for the really critical partnership. We look forward to this exciting research project. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kausik. Professor Tatiana, please. Yes.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to echo what the previous speakers have said, and my observations are that Indonesia has the platform, a unique platform, which can support very quick development of this model. And I'm hoping that as it establishes its abilities in doing climate health forecasting, it will take the regional leadership in the Southeast Asia, which is going to be desperately needed.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Professor Tatiana. Let's have a round of applause to all the speakers here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, as we are coming to the end of this webinar, I would like to thank all the participants, all the speakers, all the honorables that have, keen enough to be part of this successful webinar. We have seen today that AI is no longer just a forecasting tool. It is becoming a bridge between global climate intelligence and local public health actions, because in the end, actually, the questions, are we ready to institutionalize them, trust the model, and integrate them into the national decision-making system? So that is a wonderful objective that the research project led by Professor Tatiana Loboda out of University of Maryland, funded by NASA, will be part of our decision-making system for public health in Indonesia. Let us ensure that the project will continue, and with the support from all fellows, from stakeholders, and also I would like to ask CTIS to join this research program toward the futures. Let us ensure that the technology, governance, and leadership move forward together. Thank you so much for everyone. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Photo session now. Now to MC, please.
Photo session.
For Ria.
Okay. Baik, Bapak Ibu, kita lanjut ke sesi foto terlebih dahulu untuk yang ada di ruang
Yang di
Zoom.
Zoom,
Silakan bisa mengaktifkan videonya.
ya kameranya.
Untuk difoto aja biasa belajar di sini kan, fotonya pendidikan tadi bebas. Oh ya, ada di sana.
Iya, ini kan ada di sana. Iya.
Oke, baik. Kami hitung.
Ya.
1, 2, 3.
Ayo on cam.
Oh, berdiri belakang.
On cam. Kalau yang belum pakai hijab dulu. Ya.
Lepas hijab.
Tuh, baik, mungkin satu kali lagi. 1, 2, 3.
Oke.
Baik, terima kasih banyak
Terima
Bapak
kasih.
Ibu atas
Terima kasih.
partisipasinya. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi
Ya,
wabarakatuh.
kita foto di sini.
Kita di sini.
Iya.
Waalaikumsalam
Pak,
Nanti sekarang Bapak.
Aswin dulu.
kasih.
Ya, Pak. Ini kameranya. Enggak, yang di depan ini kita foto di sini.
Capture semua di sini. Satu di sini aja, Prof, mumpung lagi masih duduk. Iya. Ya, satu mumpung lagi di sini.
Nanti satu kita ke sana.
Oh ya.
Iya.
Oke. Ya. Ya, udah. Fotoin aja.
Biasanya di belakang sini.
Iya. Ini biasanya begini. Iya. Ya.